So every week I'll send an email and I'll put this in there. So if you miss some stuff, you can go back in and and go back in and get caught up on anything that you missed. But yeah, just two minutes on my story. I was I was actually a lawyer in North Carolina, practicing law in Charlotte, North Carolina. I was a Christian, but I was undiscipled and a Christian, very much of the world, didn't really know what I believed or why I believed it, and got introduced to apologetics through Southern Evangelical Seminary, a home study course on apologetics. And remember, this was all the way back in 2009, which for some of you was probably before you were even born. But I watched it on these things called Commodore 64s. That's I watched this home study course on CDs, which y'all probably know what those are, and it was on apologetics and changed my whole eternity. Christianity is true. God does exist. It's true for all people at all times, at all places. The gospel is true for everybody and is the only way in which one can be made right with God. And I was like, this is amazing, and I want to study it more. And I went to Southern Evangelical Seminary, and Ratio Christi was being born out of SES right at that time. And so we left the full-time practice of law in 2012. We moved to Wilmington and we started the Ratio Christi chapter there. And then Tom came on, and then we met these two young bucks, Robert and Kinza, and Grant and Lexi, and they ended up coming, on staff, and God really just grew the chapter. And it was amazing. Had no intentions of ever leaving Wilmington. We loved, what we were doing. We had planted CRC and the church, and I was teaching apologetics. Like, Cole said, I was teaching at Coastal Christian High School. I mean, God had given us an amazing life in Wilmington and really had no intention of ever leaving. But the president of Ratio Christi, his name's Corey Miller, he had grown up here in Utah, and he grew up LDS. He grew up Mormon. And in 2018, I came out here with him. We were trying to, at the time I was doing the hiring for Ratio nationally, and we were trying to hire some people out here. We had nothing going on with Ratio Christi out here in the West. And I came out here and, really just God broke my heart for this area. You'll be here. So we live in Utah County now. Utah County is 0.5% evangelical Christian. So less Christian statistically here than in Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq. And this is where BYU is, Utah Valley University, where we're now doing ministry at Ratio Christi. And then that summer, I came back out here again and was in Southern Utah and had my first interaction with a polygamous group. And so we were staying in a polygamous hotel. I didn't know that at the time, but a guy dropped off 3 women that were dressed like, Laura Ingalls Wilder, and found out that they were 3 of his wives, and he was dropping them off for work. They were maids at the hotel. And to think this is America in the 21st century, and this is happening, it's just heartbreaking. And so I really just felt convicted that this is where, we want to come out here. And originally we were going to come out here for a year to kind of help things get started. I know Kenza always pretends like I never intended to just be here for a year, but it was true. We were just going to be here for a year. And then that was 2019, 2020. So COVID happened. And so we said, we'll stay one more year. And then we said, and then really nothing happened the next year on campus. So we said, we'll stay one more year. But by then, God really had just, given us vision for what ministry would look like here full time. And so we knew that by then, we knew this is where God had us for the rest of our lives. And so we were living up in Salt Lake County and doing ministry at the University of Utah. And then, Jane moved here. And so we were able to have a team. And then we've had some interns. Cole was interning with us. And now we've got Rinsley and another intern you'll meet. His name's Jake. And then Cole was able to move out here. So we've got a team here now. And so one of the things we're going to do when you're here is we'll go do evangelism at BYU, and we'll go down to the Solid Rock Cafe, which is down in Ephraim, Utah. And on the first trip, doing both those things just kind of convinced me that this is where God really was calling us, was to Utah County, the least evangelical county in the least evangelical state in the country. And so we want to plant a church here. We planted CRC a couple of years ago, and so we want to plant a church here, and we're do ministry here. But these mission trips, we think can be this really, if you'll let it, this eternity changing week, and even 2 months leading up to it, and even afterwards, time of your life. Because you're coming out here, and we're going to use evangelism to the LDS is our way in which we're going to do 2 things. We're going to challenge you to know what you believe and why you believe it, and then ask yourself, do I really believe the true biblical gospel, Or am I probably, so my position is that most of modern evangelicals are more Mormon in the way we think about God and the way we think about religion and the way we think about the gospel than we realize. And you're going to experience that. And you're going to probably have some really tough times over the next couple of months. And when you're out here, where some people on the trip, I remember in the June trip on day one guy was questioning his entire faith. But then by Friday, he was, super excited and said, "Don't worry, we're not creating atheists out here." But it's important. I mean, he had never thought about really what he believed and why he believed it. And we're going to challenge you. I promise you, you will be challenged on this trip. If you're not challenged, then you're not participating. You're not being engaged. And that's why we want to create an environment in the pre-trip where we're trying to equip you as best you can. And so we'll talk about that here in a minute, to be able to wrestle through the things that you will wrestle with when you're here, but even starting to get in the mindset of thinking about what does it mean to be a Christian? Because one of the things that I was talking to a guy today at church. He is interning the church that we're going to now. He was interning at the church, and he went back to Texas for Christmas break. And when he came back, he said it was hard being back in Texas. It's hard. It was one of the first times I went back to Wilmington after being out here for a while. It was hard because it's just so different. I mean, so out here, there's no Christianity, and to go back east into Wilmington or Texas or there's a church on every corner, and everyone's quote a Christian, but it doesn't mean anything to anybody. It's heartbreaking because you realize that we've exchanged the reality of the life-changing, eternity-changing gospel for what we do for an hour on Sunday, and that's not the true gospel. And so our prayer would be, for those Jane and Cole and I, and our prayer would be, and Kenza and Tom, is that this trip really would cause you to think deeply about the gospel and about what does it mean to be a Christian, and what am I doing with my life, and what is the point of being here? Like really thinking about what your why is. We talk about that a lot. What is your why? And this trip will challenge you with that. And hopefully the goal that you come out of this with is that the gospel matters, and you will interact with people every day of your life who don't know the gospel. And we can have conversations with them, and it doesn't have to be this formulaic thing where, I have to do all, when we think evangelism, we freak ourselves out because we think we have to do all this stuff and we have to know all the answers. And so we're going to try to challenge you that we've misunderstood what it is to be able to share the gospel. It's easy, it's hard, and it's easy, but we're going to teach you how to just make this natural for you. And so we're going to use evangelism to LDS as the means to introduce that to you. But the goal would be that you would take that back to Wilmington, you would take that back to Oregon and Florida and wherever you are, and that these conversations would just become part of your natural rhythm of your life. And then maybe for some of you, God would have, maybe for some of you, moving out here to Utah. And certainly we'll talk to you about that as we go through the trip and into the trip. And if that's something that you're thinking about, then certainly talk to us, and we want to kind of help you wrestle through that together. So, all right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to go through again, this is going to be a lot of information. So again, I'm going to try to help you as best I can get ready for coming out here. And so, can everyone see this? Can see this document? Okay. So this is everything that's going to happen over the next 2 months. Okay. So you'll see, we were joking with Cole Morganti. Cole, you've officially made it onto the leadership head there. So, good job, buddy. So me and Jane and Cole, we just, any way we can help you, our phone numbers, email. Well, actually, I should have put Cole, I'll add your phone number on there. But any way we can help you, and this also during the trip, and then we'll also have Kenza and Tom's info on there as well. Kenza has set up a group me for us. So one of the things we'll talk about this more when you're out here, but one of the things we're going to challenge you to do is to, not be on your phones a lot during the trip, but you are going to use your phone when we're going out and we're doing stuff, and that we're going to primarily communicate through the GroupMe during the next 2 months. So that's going to be ways that we can encourage each other. We're going to talk about, one of your first assignments to go and have a meeting with a missionary. And so maybe, hey, I'm going to meet with my missionary. Can y'all pray for me real quick? And just a way for us to begin to engage with each other before the trip. And so Kenza has set that up. I think some of you have already been added. If not, we can add the rest of you. It's just called Utah Trip, March 4th through the 11th, 2023, with 2 exclamation points. Very important, 2 exclamation points, because we're very excited. And so we're going to add you on that, and then again we'll use that to communicate throughout the next couple of weeks before the trip and then during the trip. Okay, so. The only book that you're required to buy, okay, is this book. This book is called Tactics. Now, many of you, if you've been a part of Ratio Christi, you've probably heard us talking about this. You've been around. This is the book that we think is required reading for anybody, not just Christians. And so this is the 10th anniversary edition. It came out a couple years ago. There is an older edition. If you have an older edition, that's fine. You're not missing a whole lot. There's not a bunch of new tactics that have been added, but it's just kind of updated. But get this book, go onto Amazon, 10 or 12, 15 bucks, whatever it is, and buy this book and get it and start reading it. And you'll see we've got it. We're going to have some reading time, reading schedule for y'all set aside. Now, the other 2 books, the Bible. Now, remember, we'll talk about this as we start introducing you to Mormonism. When I use the term Mormon, let me just take 2 seconds. Mormon is really a kind of a blanket term that includes everybody who believes that they're part of the restored church of Jesus Christ. Okay, so Joseph Smith, allegedly, and there's people that think that it didn't happen, people think it did. We'll talk more about this, but allegedly had an experience in Sacred Grove where he was praying about which denomination of church he was supposed to join. And he had a vision, and supposedly he was told by Heavenly Father and Jesus, they believe they're 2 separate beings, that he should not join any church. They were all false, essentially of the devil, and that there needed to be a restored church, that he was going to be the one to restore it. And so this is where the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints eventually comes out of. But then you had a split. As soon as Joseph Smith died, you had multiple splits. And then after they gave up polygamy in 1890, they started more splits. And so now you've got about 200 different sects within Mormonism. So Mormonism is the blanket term, which would include everybody in the restored gospel. There's fundamentalists, and you'll meet some of them when you're out here. These would be the polygamous groups. And then there's the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which is part of that. So they do not like to be called Mormons now because the teachings of Russell Nelson, who's the current prophet, he has told them and told we're not Mormons, we are Christians. And so you'll get that a lot. But so if we use the term when you're talking, you'd use the term Mormon. A lot of times they'll say, no, we're members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So just a little bit of introductory. We'll go through all of this and kind of get you up to date on this. But so if we use the term Mormon, we're talking about broad speaking, everybody under that blanket. The members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints will be 95%, 99% of what you interact with across the country, which would be the LDS the missionaries that you'll talk to. But they only use the King James Bible. And so we'll talk to you about that. If you're interested, depending on how serious you want to get, you can get a quad. This is mine. Okay. So this is a quad, and it has the Book of Mormon, the Doctrines and Covenant, the Pearl of Great Price, and the Bible. So all of those are considered sacred scripture for Mormons. The Bible is the least. It's kind of the 4th level. So Book of Mormon, Doctrines and Covenants, then Pearl of Great Price, and then the Bible is kind of the lowest. But if you want, you can get one of these. Certainly depends on how much interaction you're going to have with Mormons when you're out here. But you're going to want a Bible, and again, you can use your phone if you want. You're going to bring the book Tactics, and then these 2 books. So this is a little short book written by a guy named Brett Kunkle, The Ambassador's Guide for Mormonism. But I have a PDF. You can go on Amazon and order this if you'd rather have a physical copy. But I have a PDF that I will send you. Okay, so as soon as we're done with this call tonight, I'll send you all the stuff I'm going to show you tonight, and then the PDF copies of these two books. So you want to. So this is the Tactics will be the only thing you have to buy. If you want to buy some of these other books, you certainly can. So this will be helpful. It's kind of introduction, and I'll show you. We go over a lot of this material in our videos, but it's a good little introduction, and I'll send you a copy of that. And then this is our Ratio Christi ebook. What if Christianity is true? If any of you have read I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist, this is basically just a condensed version of that. But it introduces you to arguments for the reliability of the Bible, arguments for God's existence, arguments for the resurrection. One of the things that we're going to try to inculcate into you is what you're never trying to do when you do evangelism is just get somebody to drop their false worldview. We don't want people to just walk away from Mormonism. And when we first moved out here, and many of the ways in which people do apologetics to Mormons is we're just going to tell you all the bad things about Mormonism, all of the evils of Joseph Smith, all of the, and we're going to tell you that, which is true, that Mormonism is false. The problem is that about 70%, depending on who's doing the polling, 70% of those who walk away from Mormonism become atheist agnostic. So think about that. If all you do is convince somebody that Mormonism is false and they become atheist agnostic, what have you accomplished? Because some of the angriest people I've ever met in my entire life, some of the angriest atheists, are former Mormons who have now rejected everything. From their perspective, they've been told their whole life that if Mormonism isn't true, nothing is true. And this is what they're taught. And they come to believe rightly that it's not true. And so now they reject everything. And you'll see a lot of them reject everything. I mean, they go from we don't drink coffee and we don't swear to they're swinging and they're doing all kinds. I mean, they lose all hinges of morality. And that's not, I mean, the evil one is happy either way. So what we're gonna try to teach you is we're not just trying to persuade somebody that Mormonism is false. We're trying to persuade them that Christianity is true. And this is where your apologetics is helpful. This is why we believe that apologetics is important, because we want to show them that just because Joseph Smith isn't who he claimed to be, he's not a true prophet of God. Demonstrably, he's not a true prophet of God. Jesus is who he claimed to be. And those are two separate claims. So if you're going to reject the claims of Jesus, you have to do them on his terms, not on the terms of Joseph Smith. And so we're trying to show them that Mormonism is false, but more importantly, that Christianity is true. And we'll talk more about that. And this is where this book will help you. Okay. So we're going to show you here in a minute. We're going to give you a bunch of videos and they're going to help you with some of that apologetics if you don't have a lot of that information. Okay, so just those three books, The Tactics, The Ambassador's Guide, and What If Christianity is True, and I'm going to email you these two, and those will be the only books you have to read plus in the Bible. Now, if you want to go deeper, okay, so again, some of you, maybe if you've been on the trip before and you're like, yeah, I've got that, I'm good, and you want to go deeper. Now, there are other books, maybe you want to read the Book of Mormon, maybe you want to get a quad or a triple, some people call it the triple, that would just be just the Book of Mormon, just the Doctrine and the Covenant, and just the Pearl of Great Price. Maybe you want to get that. If you have an interaction with a Mormon, they'll probably bring you, with a missionary, they'll probably bring you a copy of the Book of Mormon. So if you want a copy of the Book of Mormon, they'll probably bring you one. You get a free copy of that. If you want to read it, you can. It's Mark Twain called the Book of Mormon. What do you call it? It's like chlorophyll or something. I mean, it's basically said it's not
chloroform and book form.
Yeah, chloroform and book form. Yeah, it's not a summer beach read. I'll tell you that much. But we'll talk about the Book of Mormon. But it's, if you want to read through it, we encourage, go for it, right? Mormonism 101. So when you're out here, hopefully you'll meet Bill McKeever and/or Eric Johnson. Bill McKeever has forgotten more about this stuff than most of us will ever know. I mean, he's just like he's got a photographic memory. He'll quote you like the page and paragraph of things. His book, Mormonism 101, is a great resource if you want to go deeper. If you want to go to kind of like next level, I've got the basics. I want to go more about historic Mormonism. One of the things that you'll find is that most of the people that you're going to talk to at BYU, they don't care about historic Mormonism. They don't really care about Joseph Smith anymore. They'll say, yeah, Brigham Young was a racist. I mean, it's crazy what's happening with Mormonism. But McKeever and Johnson are really good at helping you understand, and Sandra Tanner is also really good at this, helping you understand historic Mormonism. And then our president of our ministry, Corey Miller, he wrote a book called Engaging with Mormons. It's actually a really good resource if you're interested, helpful in just some ways, some information on how to engage. If you're in, and then Sharing Good News with Mormons. This is a really good book. It's by Eric Johnson and Sean McDowell, because it's about, I don't know, Kinza, we went through this book, when we first came out here. It's maybe 20 chapters. So it's like 20 different authors or 20 different evangelists, all with different techniques on how they do evangelism and what they found is effective with Mormons. So it's actually very helpful because it gives you lots of different ways in which you can engage. And so it's a great resource, and you'll meet many of the people that wrote chapters for that book live out here, and they're friends of ours. And so you can, you'll meet some of them when you're out here. And then if you're interested in like a narrative, you're like, yeah, if you're more of like, I want the story of, tell me about somebody who came to Christ from Mormonism. The Wilders. So Lynn Wilder wrote a book called Unveiling Grace. She was a professor at BYU. And she tells the story in her book, Unveiling Grace. Professor at BYU, and her son, Micah Wilder, went on a Mormon mission in Florida and ended up getting saved. The story is amazing. He wrote his book. It's called Passport to Heaven. It's an incredible story about how he actually challenged a Baptist pastor who ended up moving to Wilmington. For those of you who want some Wilmington trivia, and he actually was pastoring at Grace Baptist Church for a few years in where WCA is. Then he moved on to Chicago. But Micah challenged him to, so the pastor challenged him to read the New Testament with fresh eyes, without all of the religious, all of that, the Mormonism that he had been growing up with, and he ended up getting saved, and it's incredible. And he came home, and then his mom, Lynn Wilder, ended up getting saved, and she actually did some work with Ratio Christi in Florida. So their testimonies are amazing. So if you want to read a really good book and to encourage you about, sharing the good news and what that can happen, then Lynn or Michael's book they're both really good. And then, I don't have enough faith in atheists. If you want to go deeper on the apologetics, that's obviously a great book. I know we talk about all this stuff with Ratio Christi. And then we're going to go through the book of Galatians, and we'll talk more about this throughout these trips. These pre-trip Zoom meetings. But I think when I was first coming out here, I was asking, apologists and evangelists, what book should I read to really understand Mormonism? And one pastor, he said, look, just read the book of Galatians about 50 times, because that's Mormonism. And the Galatians for you, I don't think there's anybody who's helped me understand the gospel better than Tim Keller. I certainly don't agree with Keller on everything, but his book, Galatians for You, is incredible. In fact, we'll go through Galatians for You essentially as we go through the book of Galatians when you're here. But it's a book that I love and encourage everybody to get, and a lot of his stuff is just really helpful. So anyway, those are recommended books. If you want to go deeper, great, but we're not trying to overload you. The basic main book we want you to read is Tactics and the Ambassador's Guide, and then watch our videos. And if you do those things, you'll be well prepared to come out here. Okay, if any questions, unmute yourself and just shout them out if you have questions. Then we'll take questions at the end as well. Okay, so before the trip, you're going to read the book, and I'm going to go through the whole itinerary right here. Okay, we're going to have 5 of these large group meetings. And then between, if you're in Wilmington, Kinza and Tom will lead some small group meetings where y'all can get together and talk about some of this stuff. And so there's going to be 8 weeks. So I just put on there weekly 8 weeks. Maybe you do more, maybe you do less, whatever y'all want to do. But Kinza and Tom will help you with that. If there is anybody who is not part of the Wilmington group and wants to do a weekly small group, then either I or Cole or Jane will help you. We can do a Zoom meeting if you want to get together and we want to do that weekly. We can do a Zoom meeting, or maybe I'll even volunteer Cole. Cole will kind of take the lead on helping you wrestle through some, to do those meetings if you want to. So let us know if you're not in Wilmington, you want to do weekly small groups just as you're wrestling through the material. Let us know. We want to help you as much as we can prepare to come out here. Okay. Now, before you come out here, you're going to meet with Mormon missionaries twice. Okay. The first time is we're going to ask you to do that right away. So the idea is before you study, before you go through any of that, we're going to give you some more material here. We're going to give you all this information before you read any of the books, before you studied. Now, if you've done it before, that's fine. But for those of you coming in fresh, before you do any of that, we want you to schedule a meeting and have a meeting with a missionary. And then you're going to do that right before you come out here. And obviously the goal is to see how did it go now? And then, 2 months, after 2 months of training, how did it go? And then after a week of being out here, hopefully you're going to maintain that relationship with them. And then how does it go? And hopefully you'll see that your competence, that your comfort level will improve as you get some training, right? And so that's true of all of us. Every one of us did terribly the first time we ever tried to have conversations with Mormons. I mean, horribly. I can give you all the gory details. And then hopefully we're doing a little bit better now in the way we're having the conversation. So just the more we get up to bat, the better we'll do. And so you can go to Come Unto Christ, not to be confused with Came Unto Christ, which is Cole Morganti's podcast and ministry. Like and subscribe. But Come Unto Christ, if you go to comeuntoChrist.org and then /Light the World 2020 Book of Mormon request, or if you, they may have changed it a little bit, but if you just go on there, you can request to have a missionary and they'll meet with you. Now that could be over Zoom, or they could come and you can do it in person. It's better to do it in person. Okay. I promise. It's scary. I get it, but they'll come to you and you'll have the conversation. So we're going to challenge every one of you to have a meeting with a Mormon. Now, maybe some of you know a local missionary, or even better, maybe someone who's a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. There's that huge church right across from UNCW. If some of you want to get bold, they go to UNCW, walk across the college one day, College Avenue, whatever, walk across, go in there and say, I'd like to talk to somebody. Right? Just, hey, I would like to talk to somebody. And they will, you can talk to somebody. Again, we're stepping out of our comfort zone, right? So these are our beginnings. We're going to tell you this over and over and over. Your comfort zone is never static. It's either growing or shrinking. And we're going to challenge you to grow it a lot on this trip. So trust the process, right? I mean, you're going to buck back. You're not going to like it. I promise you. So that's going to be your first challenge, is to have that meeting. And then I'm going to show you, we've got a whole packet that I'm going to show you, and you're going to have a little, some things to think about and some work to do in your journal before that. So that's your first assignment. And then every week, right, you're going to purchase a journal. So this is mine. I've used for multiple trips, and now I've never journaled. I used to never journal, and because of these trips, I'm doing that a lot more now, and it's so helpful. But it doesn't have to be fancy. I mean, I got this for like $1 at Rite Aid or something. So it doesn't have, now some of you can get really fancy ones, and it can be really pretty, but don't, just get a journal that's separate. And what you want to do is, this is something that you want to bring with you on the trip. And ideally, you would start writing in it. We're going to ask you to do something today or tomorrow. And you would start writing in day 1, and you write in the same journal all the way through Saturday, the last day of the trip when you're here, and then hopefully even into the future. And then you'll have that, and you can go back and you can read, and you'll see, I go back and I read some of my journal entries from 2 years ago, and it's cool to see what God has done through these trips and whatever. And so get a journal. Okay. And then we're going to ask you, and I'll show you this in a minute. I'll give you the whole, I'll send you all this. I'll send you this file. I'm going to send you another file, and we'll have prompts for you to go through. Now, eventually we're going to have all this in a book. And so actually there's a guy with Rosh Hashanah that's helping us put together in a book right now. We're not going to have it ready for this trip. We may have it ready for the May trip, but if you come next year, we will have a book, and we'll just send you a book, and it'll have all of the journal stuff and everything in it. But sorry, you're going to have to this time, we're just going to have a journal. And we're going to ask you to write your journal before the trip, weekly, before you go on your mission, before you have your meeting with your missionary. And then when you're here, you're going to write in it daily. Okay. If you're interested, talk to me. The more promotions we can do for it, the better. And the more video we have, I'll send you some stuff. We got some videos from prior trips that are helpful. But if you want to do some vlogging for us about your trip, and if you're someone to volunteer to kind of vlog their way through the pre-trip and during the trip, that would be awesome. And we could kind of put that together in a little video. So we're going to challenge you. So that's the reading and then the writing. And then what we're going to do is a friend of mine, you might meet him on one of the Zoom calls. I'm not sure. but David Halevi, he was friends of mine from Wilmington, friends of ours, Wilmington, ethnically Jewish, but a believer, in Jesus. And then he moved out here to Utah with us for a while, and we were doing ministry together. And we put together, he was part with Jane and I and Cole, and we put together about, I think it's like 30 or 40 videos on apologetics, and then apologetics to Mormons specifically. And then we have a separate whole thing on apologetics or evangelism to Jewish people. And so that's what we're going to be using when we go on our Israel trip, which we're having the first Israel trip this June. Those of you that go on this trip will be eligible. Hopefully we'll start doing that into the future, but it'll be an evangelistic mission trip to Israel. But so if you go to right here, buildersofisrael.net, you go here. This is their website. Now, when you go, the first thing you'll do is they'll be here to log in. You'll request an online thing. Israel is super weird. Like, I mean, they could get kicked out of the country if they find out that, until they get their passports, and they're almost there now, but they don't like people evangelizing. And so the website, there's some back end stuff. And if you give them your information, you sign up, they'll give you access to the site. Okay. And so you'll see here, you'll just go in, log in, get access to the site. Now, when you get access, so I'm already logged in right now, you'll see, and he called it the STO core modules and the STO LDS modules. Okay, you see that? So if you click on STO core modules, you'll see we have this intro video is the trip for me. This is just talking about the trip itself. Truth, does God exist? Nature of God, all of the classical apologetics stuff, nature of the gospel. And you'll see each week, you're going to go through and watch one of these videos, and I'll show you here in a second. Now, then what we've done is for the STO LDS modules, we've taken each of those topics. So we call the first one Mormon Stuff, very classic title. But we've taken each of the apologetics kind of main heads and then made subheadings. So how does truth apply to the LDS? How do, certain LDS terms? And one of the things we're going to say over and over and over, when you're talking to Mormons, you're using the same lexicon, the same words, but you have a very different dictionary. So almost every word that matters, literally every word that matters, you mean something very different as a Christian when you use that term than they do. So you have to understand that. So we have got a whole section on that. Does God exist? And understanding the LDS view of God. The LDS view of God, God was once a man who became God. They do not believe in an uncaused first cause, right? There's the famous couplet, Lorenzo Snow, as man is now, God once was. As God is now, man may become. So they believe that God was once a man who earned godhood. His reward was this planet with plural wives and all of this. And if you do enough good stuff and you get celestial glory, you too, well, if you're a guy, sorry for the ladies, you can become a god and have your own planet. And if the guy calls you out, then you could be his goddess wife to all the ladies. So, but so this is, you just start to see this is very, very different than, biblical Christianity. But you'll see we've got modules for everything within apologetics, and then how does that apply with our conversations to LDS? So there are enough videos here to help you wrestle through all of this stuff and to get a really good understanding of biblical apologetics, and then how it applies in your conversations with Mormons. Now, remember, our goal is not just to show someone that Mormonism is false. We want to demonstrate to them that Christianity is true. So I always want to give people arguments for the resurrection, or, arguments for a biblical view of God. There's a guy that was coming to our meeting at UVU at the end of the semester in the fall, atheist, came to our first meeting, was, had a lot of questions and was just very adamant. And it became clear after talking to him, he was former Mormon, and all of his objections to God were against the Mormon view of God. When I introduced him to arguments for the biblical view of God, the God that does exist, he'd never heard those before and was very interested and actually kept coming to our meetings. And we've texted back and forth because he's never thought about an uncaused first cause. And so they never thought about this before. Most of them have never heard the true gospel before. And so this is why these videos are really important. Now, you'll get out of this about as much as you put into it. We've had trips where people have watched none of the videos and done none of the reading, and they've done about as good as you would think they do. Now, it's still worth it. It's still worth it to come. If you can't do the reading and you can't do the videos, don't think that you can't come. But the more that you prepare on the front end, the better it will be for you when you're here, right? I mean, that's just like everything in life, right? I mean, the more we prepare, the better things are going to be for us, right? So you'll see that on here. If you got questions about it, let me, you certainly let me know. But if you go to buildersofisrael.net, sign up, you'll see the videos and everything, okay? So now on this, and I'm going to send you this is everything that will happen for the next 8 weeks. So you see week 1, we have our large group Zoom call tonight. And then the assignment for this week is to read the book of tactics. We've given you 2 weeks for tactics. We've given you a week for 2 weeks for the ambassador's guide. It won't take you 2 weeks. We've given you a week for what if Christianity is true. We're going to ask you to read through Galatians, a couple times, and then we've given you some time to catch up at the end. So hopefully you'll be able to get caught up on that reading. And then each week we've told you, okay, so for this week, watch the video intro, the intro video in the STO modules. Is this trip for me? And then watch Mormon stuff. So you watch those 3 videos, and then we'll show you on the packet. You'll have some places to take notes in your journal. And then next week you'll read tactics. You'll watch truth, LDS truth, LDS terms. And then at the end, you'll see we've given you a week to kind of catch up, and towards the end, there's less. So if you get behind, again, if you don't get through all of it, that's fine. Get through as much as you can. But again, the more you get through, the better. Okay. And you'll see that we're basically every other week, we're going to meet for these Zoom calls. So this is the first one. The one thing I'm going to ask is, because at our church, our small group actually meets tonight, and so I'm going to see if we can move our calls to 7 o'clock our time, which would be 9 o'clock Eastern time. I know that's a little bit late for y'all, but because we're getting plugged into this church, and we're hoping to plant out of that church, so it's really important for us to be there and be part of these small groups. So we're asking if you would just, for those of you back east, if we could do 9 o'clock, and we won't go this will be the longest meeting, I promise you, as we go through all the material. The rest of them will be about an hour long, but that will be on January 22nd, February 5th, February 19th, and then we'll do one last one on February 26th, and that'll just be just logistics, because you will come the next Saturday. We'll talk about, packing and whatnot. I mean, March 4th through the 11th, we could have 3 feet of snow on the ground, or it could be 70 degrees. I mean, literally, the weather here is crazy. So we'll know as we get closer, we'll know what it's going to look like, and what the weather's going to be. Hopefully, I mean, we've had trips here where we were out doing door knocking and it was pouring snow, and I just prayed, God, please let somebody invite me into their house, because I was freezing. And we've done evangelism when it was like 90 some degrees, and we said, please Lord, let somebody invite us to their house, because I need some water. I mean, so you just, it's Utah, you're going to get both of those. So, okay. And then this is at the bottom, just some of the sample of things we're going to do. We'll give you the itinerary as we get closer to, March, but we're going to do lots of evangelism. You're going to meet, hopefully we're working on having dinner at a polygamous family's house. We did that in June. We're going to hopefully do an event on Thursday night where we go out, when we invite people, when we go, evangelizing at BYU and we go door knocking in Provo. We're going to invite them to an evangelistic thing on Thursday night here in Provo. So we're working on that. Rensley, her parents, and another couple that we're friends with who are former Mormons and are now Christians, they share their testimony, and it's awesome. And we just have a great night of singing and worshiping there. You're going to meet some former polygamists who are now Christians, and their story is heartbreaking, and you'll meet them. And so we're going to meet a guy you're going to hear from a guy who is, was Mormon, became evangelical, and now he's sort of this like nuanced universalist, and it's really challenging. You're going to hear from Mormon apologists. Actually, this time I think we're actually going to hear from a Catholic bishop when you're here. So you're going to be challenged in all these different ways, and it's going to, it's going to scare you for some of you, but it's good. It's worth it, and it's good. And if you just let it work its way through, and you're challenging yourself to know better what you believe and why you believe it, and it will all be better for it. So, okay. So then all right. So then this is our field guide. And again, what I was saying, in the future, we'll have this all in a book. But right now it's just this, this document. I'm going to email you both that pre-trip itinerary and this. Okay. So you'll see this is going to be what you can use to go through all the material. So we're going to ask you tonight or tomorrow. Now, again, you'll get out of this what you put into it. Some of you won't do any of this. That's fine. still come. But if you are willing to, if you'll put in the effort, I promise you, you'll be rewarded in the end. Just like anything in life. We've got 5 kids, and I'm trying to teach my kids now. If you will put in good effort, I promise you there will be rewards for it. So it's the same thing. You've signed up for this trip. You're going to pay money. Put the effort into it, right? Dedicate some time every day to just to be present with this. And I promise you, it'll help you. So day 1, right? This is just, where are you right now with God, right? Maybe somebody like, I don't even know if I'm a Christian, or maybe somebody like, I am so on fire for God right now. I don't even know what to do, right? Why are you coming on this trip? What do you need God to show you over the next 2 months? As you get ready, is there something that you're wrestling with, or do you just, maybe I need to know if it's true that Christianity is true, or, whatever that looks like. How can we help you in your journey? How can, the leaders, how can, Tom and Kenza and me and Jane and Cole, how can we help you wherever you are? Now, each of you are in different places, but we're always talking about one thing, taking one move to the right? If you've read the Trellis and the Vine, one move to the right. So maybe for some of you, that's different, but what does it take you to take that next step and to keep moving? So how can we help you with that? And then we're going to encourage you to write out your prayers. So you're going to do this. So this is your prompts, but I'm going to encourage you to do this all in your journal, so that you'll have this as a written document for the trip. Again, in the future, we'll have this all in a book, but we're going to ask you to do this day 1. Okay. And then I'm going to ask you to do this and then send it to me. So you could do this, and then just carve out this and send it to me, but I'm asking you to email it to me. So this is, again, without taking notes, without studying anything, where I'm just trying to figure out where everybody is. So we know, do we have a group of just, fully trained apologists that are just, they've got the ontological argument tattooed on their back? Are they just that? Or do we have people that have no idea what the ontological argument is, right? Wherever you are, that's fine. But this pre-trip quiz, just trying to figure out where you are. So I'm just a couple questions, describe God and define the Trinity. Why do you believe the Bible? Describe Jesus and his nature. Do you believe other religions are true? Why or why not? On a scale of 1 to 10, how comfortable are you sharing your faith? Why that number? How confident are you that Christianity is true? Why that number? And how confident are you that the Bible is the authoritative word of God? Why that number? Now, all of these are really important for conversations with Mormons, but I want to find out where you are now. And that's going to help us kind of, as we can, maybe that can help us know how we can help you better in the next 2 months before you come out here. So again, if you'll get out of it what you put into it, I'm asking you to take this pre-trip quiz. And then if there's anything in this question, how can the leaders help you? Maybe just ask, you could put that at the bottom of that, however or put it in your email. How can we help you? Just let me know and send that to me, email that to me. That would be super helpful. And again, we're going to ask you to do that. Now, every week, we're going to ask you to take, so at the end of the first week, so, Sunday next week, your pre-trip, that week 1, right? What is one thing that God taught me this week? What's something I've learned? What's something I realized I need to study more? Who am I praying for this week? Write notes. Again, write this stuff out. You want to have a written log. So when 3 months from now, you could go back and you can say, oh, I remember this happened. I remember my train of thought then, and look what God has, where he has me now. And so write this stuff out. So if you do that every week, awesome. Again, if you don't do it, again, you'll get out of it what you put into it. So we've got prompts for every week leading up to when you're out here, right? And then when you're here, you're going to use the journal a lot. We'll give you more of that information when you're here, but this is all for the pre-trip stuff. Okay. And then before you have your first missionary meeting, so you're going to set up that first missionary meeting, you're going to go to Come Unto Christ, right? Again, not to be confused with Came Unto Christ, Cole Morganti's podcast and TikTok channel that you should like and subscribe to. But first, before you have a missionary meeting, before you talk with them, how are you feeling? Probably nervous, right? But what does that look like? What is the one thing that you are nervous about? How are you prepared? Do you feel prepared? What's your goal in the conversation? You always think, what is my goal in every conversation I have? And we're going to talk to you a lot about that, because I think we're going to challenge you on some of even maybe the way you're thinking about your goals in these conversations. Write out a prayer. And then immediately after the conversation, debrief. One of the things we're going to teach you to do is after every conversation, debrief. And that's with yourself and with your partners. How did you do? Right? What surprised you? What didn't surprise you? What came up that you need to study more? What can you do better next time? Whatever it is, just debrief. Okay. So you're going to write that out again in your journal. So this is before your first meeting, and then for your second meeting, do the exact same thing. Okay. So we're, again, a lot of writing, reading, I get that, but again, you'll get out of it what you put into it. And then this is the last thing. I know it's a lot of information, but for every video that I showed you on the Builders of Israel website, every one of those videos, so this is the intro video, we have questions for you, prompts as you go through the video. So ideally, you're watching the intro video, you're taking notes, and then you go through what are some of the main goals for the trip, that David and I talk about in that video. What are the two contents and two realities? We're going to talk about that a lot next trip. This is something that's really important for us out here. Two contents, two realities that Schaefer talked about. What are you most excited and nervous for? So again, for every video, is this trip video for me? Is this trip for me? Then you get into the LDS truth. For every video, there's prompts and there's questions to help you think better about everything that's happening in these videos and to better prepare yourself for your conversations and for coming out here. So again, there's a lot. I mean, this is 37 pages worth of material. I know it's a lot, but again, if you just say, I'm going to set aside 30 minutes or an hour every day, we're challenging you for the next 2 months. Read your Bible and pray every single day, whether that's a normal rhythm for your life or not, for the next 2 months. And then when you're here, every day, would you take your journal, get up 15 minutes early, get your Bible out, read something, maybe read through the book of Galatians, right? Maybe you read through a half a chapter a day, whatever, and take, what is God showing you? Take some notes. Is there a particular passage you want to memorize? There's some, we're memorizing a section from Philippians 3 this month, leadership here, and we're going to memorize a section from Galatians before y'all come out here. Maybe that's but just for the next 2 months, just say, what could God do if I was just willing to give my time and my energy towards this? Again, not to earn anything. We'll talk about that a lot, but out of an overflow of the love that we already have in the gospel. And so we're going to challenge you, read your Bible every day, pray every day, carve out that time, maybe take an hour, 30 minutes. I know you got school and everything, but prepare for this. And the more you prepare, I promise you, the better the trip will be when you are out here. So is anybody still there? Or is that just, are you done listening to me? What if I just look back and everybody was just gone and I just talked for 2 hours by myself? All right. Questions, comments, hilarious anecdotes that you just like to share with the group, John West? No, anything that you want to, any questions you have about anything that I talked about. I know it's a lot of information.
I have a question for meeting with the missionaries.
Yes.
Do you want us to just ask some questions to get to know what they believe, or would you prefer that we try to contend for the faith with those missionaries?
This is what we're doing. For the first trip, for the first meeting, we're not going to give you any advice. We're not going to tell you what to do. Just go at, let's say you're meeting with a missionary. How does it go? The reason is that, so wherever you are, right, the goal would be that March 11th, when you have a conversation that day with the missionary, with the Mormon, how much have those conversations changed, which will be tremendous. What is your goal? All that stuff will change. But the first conversation is just wherever you are. So the idea is you go into that without any training, without thinking about it. We're going to do the Zoom calls. We're going to learn a lot over the next couple of months, 2 months, and then you're going to have a next call, and hopefully that's going to go better. Then you're going to be out here for 5 days, 7 days, full bore. And at the end of that, if you've taken good notes in your journal, you'll see this incredible transformation that takes place in you, in your heart for the Mormons, in your heart for the lost, in your heart for the gospel. And so this is just you day one, wherever that looks like. So maybe for some of you, it's, you're going to go out there and you're going to tell them they're all going to hell and you're just going to scream at everybody, and other of you are just going to go in there and you're going to, just ask them about their goldfish or whatever it is. That's day one. And then after we've trained you and give you some examples, then hopefully you'll see how one of the reasons why I think most people don't do evangelism is because we have a false view of what evangelism is, and we put too much pressure on ourselves, and we make it more than it has to be. And what you're going to learn on this trip is how to just make evangelism a part of your everyday life. And so for many of you, even the thought of having a conversation with a missionary right now is freaking you out. And the idea hopefully will be that by the end of the trip, the idea of just talking to people like this will just be the normal rhythm of your life. So yeah, so no I'm not going to, we don't want to give you any goals or anything. That's just you write about it, mark it in your journal. And then the next Zoom session we have, that's when we'll start talking about goals and conversations and tactics. And that's where the book of Tactics. So ideally you do this even before you've read Tactics. If you've already read it, that's fine, but even before you've read Tactics.
I just wanted to like mention that because I felt like it'd be weird to call them over just so I can like tell them that they're wrong. Because usually missionaries will come because they think you're interested. So I wasn't sure if I should just lay my I guess like my apologetics down and just listen to them, or actually engage with them and challenge their beliefs.
Yeah, one of the things that we're going to challenge you to do, because a lot of times you do this, and I know I did this when I first started. A lot of times we Christians do what's called sandbagging. I'm interested in Mormonism. I don't, tell me more about it. If you're not, I'm not interested. I mean, I'm interested in knowing more. And if it's true, it's true. But I would, maybe you say, look, I'm going to Utah and I'm interested in having conversations with LDS. And I just want to know more about what you believe and why you believe it. And so we're going to have a conversation. The thing is, and we'll tell you more about this, but they have an exact training regimen. I mean, they know in every meeting for the missionaries, they've got it planned out what they're going to talk about. So they're going to be evangelizing you, and they're going to be trying to, I could probably tell you exactly what they're going to say and everything in those conversations, because it's all scripted. But it's important for you to realize that, and you to see that in these first conversations.
Okay, thank you.
And it might be frustrating, Hannah. So you might be like, that was just super frustrating. Okay, that's good. That's part of it. I mean, when you first came out here, we were so frustrated in our conversations. And I think part of it is because we didn't really know what we were doing, and we didn't have some of the training that we're going to give you that we've learned from people that have been out here that's so helpful. It's helped us have much better conversations. And so part of it is to let you kind of flounder around at first, because it's important. That's how we learn better. And then to give you some training, and then to let you. So the idea is you'd have the same missionary, if you can, the conversation, the first one and the second one, and maybe more going forward. We've had people who've been on the trip that are still in relationships with missionaries that they met even years ago.
I just like to say, because I'm a fond one to experience that the spirit of contention,
Yeah.
Spirit of contention is a real thing. So they're very touchy.
Yeah.
Talking with them.
And Josh has learned to be a little teddy bear from the first time we met him to now. I mean, he was so rough around the edges. Now he's just a little teddy bear, and just but it is true. Like, it's just we learn how to we learn. These are I mean, we'll talk about it more next time, but it's good to kind of have that first experience. And again, if it goes well, awesome. If it doesn't go well, awesome. I mean, don't be discouraged. Understand that every one of us who've done this for a lot can tell you just horrible conversations that we were a part of that were all our fault. I promise you that. So don't be discouraged. So yeah. All right. Any other questions? Or I can talk a little bit more. I'll talk about a few more logistical things, but anything I know it's a lot of information. I'll send you both those documents, but any other questions about any of the stuff that I just talked about the next 2 months?
I'll say something. So when Aaron mentioned Came Unto Christ, I just want you to know that is a real thing. He wasn't just playing that, but it is a podcast, and we do talk about Mormonism. And especially for this trip, if you don't know anything about Mormonism, like I know a few of you said, our first 2 episodes, if you look up Came Unto Christ for podcasts, the first 2 episodes, it's Intro to Mormonism Part 1, Intro to Mormonism Part 2. And we just go over some major things that we disagree on with Mormons that a lot of people probably have never even heard of before. And Aaron will talk about on the trip, but things like Jesus, the nature of God, the nature of man, salvation, those kinds of things. So that's just another resource for you guys. And I can put a link in the chat and do all that for you. But
yeah, we're not going to all plug all our podcasts in YouTube channels, but I will tell you, I've got a sweet MySpace page. If anyone wants to go over to MySpace and check it out, I've been really working on it. So John West helped me design it. It's pretty nice. I'm not going to lie. All right. Other questions about any of the logistical stuff, any of the pre-trip stuff?
We have a question. The flights that we've been looking at, a lot of them, like the one coming into Salt Lake City, comes in at 11. p.m. at night. So I just wasn't sure that day one. I know Saturday is kind of considered day one. So if you could touch on that.
Okay, yeah, that's good. Finances and those kind of things. Okay, so many of you have already sent in your or given your deposit. So $100 deposit. And remember, we're trying to make this as economical as we can for all of you. So we've so $500 for us, and that would, room and board when you're here. And then you got to get out here. So that would, your plane ticket. And I know that sometimes the plane tickets can go up and down. So $100, if you haven't sent that to me, I put my Venmo in the last email, but let me, just if you have questions about that. I know we've talked to some of you about, even one person about sending me a check. So that's fine. And then I'm going to ask you to give the balance of the balance by February 5th. Okay, so that's a month from today. So that's $400. The balance that would be your full $500. So by February 5th, if there's problems with anybody, questions, let me know. If anybody is having a hard time, so it's $500 for us, and then whatever it costs to get out here. And then if you want to spend money when you're here, certainly we're going to go out to lunch some days, but you could pack your lunch. So you could come out here and not spend any money on food, or you could eat out. We're going to go to, we go to BYU, we'll go to the cafeteria. You can buy lunch there. We go to Temple Square. There's a cafeteria there. If you want to buy souvenirs or whatever. But you could theoretically come out and just not spend a dime. If so we say about $1,000, because I don't know what the plane tickets are now. I know that they can kind of vary, but ideally those that are coming from Wilmington kind of can come together. And so what we would ideally, because we are packed. I mean, one of the things that the first trip we ever did out here, I remember we were sitting out here on a Wednesday, the first trip, and the guy's like, "So what do y'all want to do today?" Okay, so I promise you, this is not that trip. I've got we're going to go nonstop. Okay, and it's because y'all paid we want to give you as much of an experience as we can. And so we start Saturday at 5. So the idea is we're going to have dinner, and then we've got some training Saturday night, because in Sunday morning we're going full all day Sunday, and literally all day every day. And then Saturday morning, so really we finish Friday night, and then Saturday morning, you're good to go. So Saturday morning, flights, whenever y'all, we can work on that, getting y'all to the airport, whatever. Ideally, Saturday, you would be here by the morning or mid-afternoon so that we could start at 5. If you can't, so if you need to, some of you, if you need to, that means fly in Friday night, then let us know. We could try to figure out we could, try to get you accommodated. We could put you up somewhere, or, stay with one of us or something like that. So let us know if you're the only flights we get is coming in Saturday night at 11, come in Friday night at 11, and we can, you can come stay with us or stay with some other people. But ideally, now, if you can't, if none of those work out, and you're because we've had people that they just couldn't, or they've come Sunday. I mean, obviously, if you can't get it on Saturday at 11, fine. I mean, we'll make it work. But the more people we can have there, because that first night of training, it's important. We're going to go over a lot of stuff. It kind of lays the groundwork. So ideally, everyone would be there for dinner, and for us to hang out. We're renting an Airbnb in Saratoga Springs, which is right near where Jane lives in Bluffdale, which is it'd be about 45 minutes from the airport. So ideally, we do kind of one airport run. But again, we'll accommodate whatever that looks like. And then I know some of you will probably be driving in. Probably Josh and Caitlin will probably be driving in. So does that answer your question? So yeah, start looking at flights. If you have any questions, so SLC is that Salt Lake Airport. If you want to fly, I think was Allegiant. If you fly Allegiant, you have to pay for air, water. $10 if you want to use the bathroom. But if you want to fly Allegiant, they fly into Provo. And so sometimes that's cheaper to fly into Provo. So you could look at that if that's available to any of y'all. But usually people fly into Salt Lake, which it's SLC, or you can try to fly in there, Provo. But let me know, especially if you're flying from Wilmington, talk to Kenza and Tom, and ideally y'all could all kind of find some flights where y'all could all kind of come together. I know last year they flew out of Raleigh, so I don't know if that's, and I think they, be careful about flying Southwest these days, but I think Southwest flew them out of Raleigh. So anyway, kind of think about, what you want to do with that. But, and if there's questions about any of that logistics. So just to kind of talk about that, I think actually y'all, some of y'all were thinking about staying after the trip. If you are able to, I mean, one of the things we're not going to be able to do when you're here is get to experience Utah, because you're just going to, I mean, we'll drive a little bit. We'll drive down to Ephraim, which is kind of middle of nowhere. And maybe we can drive up in the mountains a little bit. But if you have the ability and you want to stay for a couple extra days and rent a car, you could go down to Zion National Park, which was beautiful places, I think, in the world. You could go to Arches, you could go to Bryce Canyon. I mean, you could do that if you want. I mean, Yellowstone is 7 hours north of here. So we've had people do those kinds of things on these trips. So if you're interested in maybe, continuing your trip or staying more, you let me know, email me or call me or something. I can kind of help you think through that if that's something that you want to do. I think even, was it last June, we took some of the students down to the Grand Canyon and then went to Zion. That was in June. That Grand Canyon's not even open in March because it could be foot of snow and it could be 70 degrees. You just never know. So other questions about, but if you, one last thing, maybe Kinza, if you want to speak on this, if the $1,000 or whatever, it's going to be, if you're like, man, I just don't know if I can do that. Kinza, I don't know, Kinza has done, I mean, all of us that are Rasha Christie, Jane, me, Tom, Kinza, Cole, we all raise our own support, and Kinza has done a lot of support raising training for people in the past that have come on the trip. So do you want to maybe talk about that for a second? And, if people have questions, how you could help them?
Yeah, so if you want to fund this trip by support raising, I have made a booklet that you can bring to support meetings to use. And also during our small groups every week, if you want to talk about this, we can. But I would advise you to go to people that you know and ask them for support on this trip. Support monetarily, but then also support to pray for you and just form a relationship with people. And so I have resources for you to do that. We can talk about what that looks like calling someone and setting up that meeting. But then also, like I said, I have a booklet that I can give you that explains kind of what this trip is, why it's important, and just kind of set you up to ask for a specific amount if that's how you want to fund the trip. So,
yeah, I mean, those of us who are just supporting missionaries, we raise support, but I mean, anybody who's on this call can get fully supported from raising support. I'm certain of that. The only question is, are you willing to do it? Again, and part of it is stepping out of your comfort zone, going up to somebody and asking them to help you fund a trip. It's nervous, but so is going, sitting down with somebody at BYU cafeteria and having a gospel conversation. So again, the whole trip is about getting you out of your comfort zone. And so we don't want, there have been people that said, I want to go on the trip, but I can't because of the money. And we've told them, look, I promise you, we can get you here if you're willing to do the work. Now, if you're not willing to do the work, then that's fine. But if you're willing to step out of your comfort zone, and so Kinza has helped plenty of people raise support to do this. We've helped people. So don't let that be a barrier for you to get out here. If that is, now, maybe for I know for people in the past it has. So, talk to Kinza if you're there, if you want to talk to us. If you need to talk to us over Zoom, I've got I think I got a recording I did with one of our students one time when I was showing her how to raise support that I could send you a video of that. But Kinza's got some good material that you could sit down with somebody for 30 minutes, buy a cup of coffee, share about it. You can do that, probably 3 times and, raise your support to come out here. Maybe 3 to 20 times probably. It really is. It's just a matter of just having the conversations, but it's good. It's good to, fear of man is the number one thing that's going to stop us from doing evangelism, and fear of man is the number one thing that's going to stop us from raising support to do ministry full time. So you're learning how to kill that, which is really, really important. Other questions or anything? All right. Well, so again, I know it's a lot of information, but what I'll do is as soon as this is done, I'm going to email you. I'll post this video. So I'll send you a copy of this video. And again, obviously, if you're watching this and you weren't a part of tonight, I know Tom and Christy, and if there's anybody else, then hopefully you'll join us next time. And then I'll send you those 2 documents and then I'll send you both the PDFs of those 2 booklets. So you'll have all that. The only thing you're gonna have to buy required would be the tactics book. And then if you want any of those other books, the Unveiling Grace is a really great book. It's an easy read, Micah Wilder's book. I mean, if you want something like that, those are really good. And then the other books that they're recommended, they're a little bit more academic. So you don't have to. And then there's tons of resources like online. So, I mean, if you're interested, you're like, yeah, I don't want to buy anything, but just give me some, websites or stuff I could go to. I mean, there's podcasts, like Cole was saying. So we got tons of resources. We can give you all kinds of info about that. So just let me know. Hopefully, again, use the get signed. If you're not on the group chat, the group me, I'll get you added on there. And then we can use that going forward, so we can post things on the group me that people can use as resources to equip us. But again, just while you're, when you're out here, again, I want to just, we're going to go to BYU and do evangelism. We're going to go door knocking in Provo. I know that's probably freaked some of y'all out. I promise you, everyone, the first day, that's the thing that scares them the most. By almost everybody after the trip says that was their favorite day. We've had some of the most amazing conversations. Just when people just going into somebody's home and having conversations. The scariest part is just knocking on that door. But one of the things we'll teach is you just don't know what God could do if you just get up to bat. We're going to hear from people who've come out of Mormonism. You're going to be challenged theologically. What do you believe and why you believe it? And I think really with the gospel, the true gospel, because again, I'm going to challenge you that many of you have a more your view of the gospel is more LDS, more Mormon than you realize. Your view of God is more Mormon than you realize. And this trip will really help you think through some of those things. Modern evangelicalism says that we're transformed by the renewing of our feelings, but Romans tells us we're transformed by the renewing of our minds. So we want to think well about the most important things in life. And we want to think well, and then our feelings should be in line with the way we think. Most modern evangelicalism, we have that reverse. So we are in line with our feelings, but a lot of times our feelings are lying to us. And so your feelings are going to tell you not to get up to bat, not to have these conversations, push into that, stretch yourself over the next couple of weeks. I promise you, with certainty, I can tell you, you'll be better on the back end of this trip, and you'll be grateful that you did it, that you took some relational risks and you challenged yourself. I promise you that's the case. So any last questions or comments or anything? Okay. So what I'll do is, I'll pray for us real quick, and then I'll stop the recording. And then if anybody wants to hang out, I'll stay on here. If you had questions or anything that you wanted to ask, but you didn't want to ask in front of the group, I'll hang on and talk to anybody. And then I'll send that email out tonight. And then, or by tomorrow, I think I've got another meeting right after this, but I'll do either tonight or tomorrow. And then, any questions you have, anything logistically, plane tickets, whatever, talk to me, talk to Jane, Cole, Kinza, Tom, and we're just super excited to have y'all come out here. So we're really excited to see what God can do.
Can I just ask one last question? So we have to fly in by Saturday, 5 p.m. What flight should we have for leaving Utah on?
So yeah, Saturday on the 11th is really anytime. So, most people are going to fly out Saturday morning sometime. And so we'll probably have, we'll take one van to a carload or something to the airport and then get people to the airport that way. So, usually, most people try to fly out. But again, if you are thinking, man, I'd like to stay for a couple extra days, we can help you figure out how to rent a car, give you some suggestions on places to go if that's something that's available to you or interests you.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
All right, let me pray for us real quick. Father, we just thank you for these group. Just excited that this, to see this group grow in their relationship with each other, but most importantly, their relationship with you. So excited to see the work that you're going to do in and through all of us as we prepare for this trip. And then as we're out here only 8 weeks from now, and just excited to see what will happen with a group of people that are sold out for the gospel, that love you, that love people that are made in your image, and love them enough to share the only real news that's worth sharing with them, the true gospel. And Lord, we just pray that you would even go ahead of us right now. This week, there will, as this group has meetings with missionaries, we pray that you would prepare those meetings. there would even be missionaries that are going to ultimately, they're going to come to you, that their shelf is going to break and they're going to come to the true Jesus. And it's going to be these conversations that are part of their journey to true salvation. And Lord, we just pray that there will be conversations that are going to be had March 4th through the 11th, that even right now you would be preparing the hearts and the minds of those that we would be talking to, such that literally we would go up to somebody and it would be an answer to their prayer, that we would want to be able to share biblical truth with them, questions that they had that we would be prepared to answer, not to show off our information, but because we want them to know you, the only true God. And so we just pray, Lord, that you would prepare our hearts and minds, you prepare the people we're going to have conversations with, Lord, and that you would just go before us. We want to see a revival here in Utah. We want to see a revival here in Utah County. We want to see people come to know the true God and to rest in the true gospel. And we pray, Lord, that you would use us in a part of people's journeys to biblical salvation. And what an honor and what an opportunity this is. And so we thank you for these students who are willing to give up their time and their money to come out here and to do this work, because it really does matter. And we're excited to see what you're going to do in and through all of us, Lord. We love you. We love the gospel, and we just love you. And we know that you love us, not because we've got great arguments or because we're going to do this. We could sit at home and not do this trip and you would love us just the same, but what an opportunity this is, Lord. And so just grateful and excited. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.